Hey guys, welcome back to the compound and to another Hammond Collection modification video. If you tuned in to the last video where I showed you how to remove the head off of the Hammond Collection Rex and swap out the teeth and eyes, then you saw the little teaser for what we're going to be doing in the video today. So this is a project that I have been excited to start on since it showed up in my shop some time ago, because when it comes to Marco's sculpts, you can always expect next level sculpting and details. I've worked with his raptor heads and his Indoraptor head, and this T-Rex sculpt looks like it jumped right off the screen, and I can already tell this is going to be a blast to paint, and it's going to take the Hammond Collection T-Rex to the next level. So this Rex head is printed and distributed by Syrett Tech, and it will be available on his Etsy store, and you can find the link in this video. This set comes with the upper and lower jaw and a pair of blank eyes that you can paint. There's also an upgrade option for a set of glass eyes, which is what I'll be using because you can't beat the realism of a good set of glass eyes. So the head comes printed in a base brown color, so we will have to paint it and put some deco on it to match the rest of the body on the Hammond Collection Rex. As far as reference material, I'll be sampling from the Stan Winston Studios ECC T-Rex statue, and I'll drop some images right here for you, just a screenshot to use if you want. I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible, and I'm not going to stress about trying to make this head look like this statue or anything like that. My main focus is really just using it as reference and getting this new head to blend in with the body and kind of play off the colors that we already have here on this figure. So what I'm going to do is just whip out the rule of cool on this and just have some fun playing off all of the awesome details Marco has packed into this sculpt. First thing we need to do is paint the lower jaw to match the underside colors on the Rex. So I'm going to go in first with some bone white and lay down a base color on the lower jaw with my airbrush. Also, a side note, all of the paints and supplies I'm using will be down below in the description box if you're painting along with me. Next up, I'm going to grab some barbarian flesh and add just a tiny drop of red into it because I want to add some warm flesh tones to the side of the jaw and then carry that over to the gums, and I'll go ahead and hit those as well while I'm here. Now to add some very light color striations around the jaw, I'm going to take some Vallejo United States Air Force brown and just kind of lightly draw little lines and stuff all across the jaw. This is really just going to kind of add layers to it and make it look a little interesting. Once that's done, I'll do a final highlight color with a dry brushing of bone white just to provide some depth to the skin and make all the details underneath pop. Now I need to try and blend in the back part of the jaw with the color of the plastic on the body. So I'm going to take some bone white, and I experimented by adding some sepia ink to it to make a tan color, and I'll choose my airbrush to blend those two sections together. Now with all of that done, now we're going to start to grind out all of the dark scales along the lower jaw. And for that, I'm using charred brown mixed with a little bit of black just to darken it up a hair. A good reference photo to use to kind of figure out what scales to hit is this one right here of the T-Rex animatronic from the movie. Marco's sculpt is pretty much identical to this, so you can kind of see the scales that need to be painted. When you look at this photo, just sort of translate that to the lower jaw on this figure. This is the most time-consuming part, and there's really no easy way to do it, so you just got to grab a fine tip brush and start grinding out all those little scales. With the scales done, now I'm going to go in with transparent burnt umber, thin down with some water, and I'll lightly glaze that over the gum line and the jaw. With that done, now I'm going to take some bone white and carefully pick out the teeth. Later on in the video, I'll add a burnt umber wash to the base of each tooth to give it that gritty effect where it meets the gum line, but for now I'm just going to knock the teeth out while I'm working on the lower jaw. Alright, so the lower jaw is done and it's looking good, so I'm going to grab some Rust-Oleum matte clear spray and I'm going to seal this up and then set it aside, and when I come back, we'll start on the upper head. Alright, so we are back and now it's time to tackle the top head. So I did a wash all over this with charred brown, and then I took a paper towel and wiped away all of the paint from the raised areas, leaving some of the brown paint down in the cracks just to add some shadow and some depth. And now that all of that's done, I'm going to take that same barbarian flesh I used on the lower jaw and add some warmth to the cheeks and gum line. Now I'll jump back in with that dark brown mix that I used on the little scales on the lower jaw, and I'll start to pick out the scales along the sides of the head. This is pretty much the same process as the lower jaw, just sort of take your time and use your reference photos to figure out which scales to hit. So now it's time to start layering some colors, and the first one to go down will be transparent burnt umber, and this is just to give some warm rusty orange tones that will kind of lay under the darker patterns that I'm going to put on after. Now I'm going to grab some Vallejo Model Air Dark Brown, and I'll use this color to darken up the eye sockets, and I'll add all of the dark brown stripes and the little patterns all over the head. The best way to go about doing this is to just go slow, set your air compressor to a low PSI, somewhere around 25 to 30 is what mine is set for right now. And I'm also using a 0.3 needle, which is a little tiny fine tip needle. It's just good for getting like nice, clean, thin lines. And then once I've got my patterns down, I like to take this high-tech tool called a Q-tip, and I like to go around and clean any of the edges and wipe the paint off of the raised ridges that I want to keep that base color plastic, because I am sort of playing off that tan plastic that the head was printed in. With all of those shenanigans done, now we can hit all of these beautifully sculpted sharp teeth, and for that, it's the same bone color that I used on the lower teeth, and applying multiple thin layers will give you a nice clean finish, so just make sure you keep that paint thin down. And with the teeth all done, now I'll show you how I like to give teeth that effect where it's dark at the base and fades into the light tooth color. So you want to grab some, you guessed it, our secret weapon, transparent burnt umber liquid talent in a bottle. And what you want to do is wash that over the teeth. And while it's still wet, take a Q-tip and pull down, wiping the wash off from the base to the tip of the tooth. And that's just going to leave that cool little streaky fade at the base. And it's just a simple but great effect to add a little realism to your paint job. All right, so we're at the home stretch. We made it. We just have a few things left to do. So I'm going to take some gloss top coat and hit all of the teeth with a couple of coats of that just to make them pop and look wet and shiny. And then the last thing to do is pop in the glass eyes to really bring this girl to life. And man, these glass eyes just make all the difference in the world. I can never paint anything that would look that good. I mean, look at that mean mug. Gosh, she looks so freaking cool. I love this thing. All right, so all of the painting is done. The eyes are in, and we are ready to reassemble this T-Rex. But one quick note, Gary wanted me to make a mention of this in the video. He says that you will need to get a 1/8 inch or a 3mm drill bit and bore the holes out on the pink pegs on the T-Rex body in order for the pegs on the 3D printed Rex head to pop in perfectly. So keep that in mind before you try cramming this thing down without drilling those peg holes out. So make a mental note, 1/8 inch or a 3mm drill bit is what you're going to need to bore those holes out. But after all of that hard work and 2 days of painting and filming and editing, she is finally done and ready to rock and roll. So we're going to do a little side-by-side comparison before we wrap this video up, just so you can get an idea of the amazing transformation that has happened here thanks to the hard work from insanely talented people in the Jurassic community. It's always a pleasure being given the opportunity to work on projects like this, and honestly, when the sculpt on a figure is this good, it pretty much paints itself. So if modding your figures is your thing, then you can follow the link here to Syrett Tech's Etsy store and grab a new head for your Rex. As always, I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me here at the compound. I hope this video has helped inspire you in some way, shape, or form. If you give this a shot, remember to tag me over on Instagram at the Jurassic Park Compound so I can share your newly upgraded Rex in my story. In the meantime, for more Jurassic related content, you know where to find it. Links will be in the description box below. You guys take care, and I'll see you around the compound.